We're on to our ninth favorite game in Week 17. And spoiler alert, the biggest question in this matchup is if everyone's Achilles will make it more than 4 plays. Let's get into it. Welcome to Summer School Club Fantasy's best ball podcast, streaming exclusively on YouTube. I am your host, Austin Amandolia, and here with me, as always, is Matt Record. This is another CRAM session focused on a Week 17 matchup, so don't forget to like and subscribe so you get coverage of every single game in Week 17. We're discussing our ninth ranked game, which is the New York Jets versus the Buffalo Bills. Some basic stats and betting lines. The over-under for this matchup is 45.5, which actually ranks 17th out of 16, despite how stout these defenses tend to be. The Buffalo Bills are currently 2.5-point home favorites. The combined Week 15 and 16 totals for these two teams is a whopping 188.5 points. That ranks third out of all 16 Week 17 matchups. So these teams are looking to have some pretty favorable matchups in the playoffs of best ball tournaments. The ADP of the first player taken off the board is the middle of the first round in Breece Hall. One of the twists of this game is it will be outdoors in lovely, warm, temperate Buffalo, New York. Yes, lots of sarcasm there. We've seen plenty of gross winter games in Buffalo, so that is something to consider when targeting this matchup. We gave it a ranking of 5.6 out of 10. We're almost to that 6-point mark with these matchups, so we got a ways to go before we get there. So first off, Matt, tell me, how does this matchup go well for fantasy football?
Yeah, I mean, the Buffalo weather is such a huge factor. You think back to a few years ago where the Patriots played the Bills similar time of the year, and the winds were so crazy that they were merely 10 passes attempted the entire game, that kind of thing. That's a huge factor here. So the weather has to be nice in Buffalo, which is asking a lot, but it can. I think the Bills defense needs to take a step back, which there's been a lot of turnover there to allow for the Jets to be able to move the ball. And I suppose the Jets defense has to be not as good as you expect, or Josh Allen does Josh Allen things and just goes off. So there's a lot of really fun playmakers on both sides here. So I think for this to help you win your tournament, the defenses have to take a step back and the offenses have to all be healthy and be crushing it.
Yeah, and I think for me, a lot of the way that this goes well relies on Aaron Rodgers in many ways, like him not just coming back healthy from his Achilles injury, but maintaining the level of play that we believe Aaron Rodgers is capable of, given his history, given the two back-to-back MVPs that he had just before his kind of down season in Green Bay before he moved to the Jets. So I think a lot would depend on how he is able to manage this offense. And if this offense actually looks good under Nathaniel Hackett, who has come under fire in recent years, as is he actually a good offensive playmaker? We'll have to see about that. But how does this matchup go poorly?
Yeah, exact inverse, right? If there's a huge snowstorm, if there is a bunch of wind, if Rodgers shows his age and is terrible. I mean, the Jets kind of showed it last year. We were so high on the Jets, hard knocks, it's going to be great. Like, finally, there's a real quarterback there in New York to elevate the Garrett Wilsons of the world. And then they went down, and then the backup quarterbacks were terrible, and everyone super underperformed and definitely tanked more than one of my leagues. So it goes, just health, and hopefully, Rodgers is good.
Yeah, exactly. I think another way that this matchup could go poorly is if the Buffalo Bills have a similar season that the Kansas City Chiefs had last year, where there's not like a clear number one playmaker on the offensive side of the ball outside of Josh Allen. So he's going to be spreading the ball across the yard. And it's going to come down to how good is the receiver room going to be? Is Keon Coleman going to have a solid rookie year that many are hoping he will? Is Dalton Kincaid going to become kind of a possession tight end that people are hoping like he could be like a Travis Kelce type mold? I don't know. Like, that's going to be an open question. And so this matchup goes poorly if those pass catchers don't step up to the plate, if they aren't able to help Josh Allen move the ball down the field efficiently. But there are many ways to stack and correlate this matchup. Matt, what are your favorite stacks to target in this game?
Yeah, I will start there with the Buffalo wide receivers. They are all the first Buffalo wide receiver is coming off the board. If I'm reading this correctly, wide receiver 46 in Keon Coleman, which is crazy. And then Curtis Samuels, wide receiver 49, Khalil Shakers, wide receiver 55. So they're all in that same range because we don't know who the guy is going to be. We know Josh Allen is a stud and he's going to be distributing the ball. We think Dalton Kincaid is going to take a big step this year. So I personally don't love taking Josh Allen at that QB1 spot. Yes, I think he's one of the safest, if not the safest, fantasy athletic QB. But if you watched our QB episode, there's a lot of value at QBs later. However, we know he's going to throw it to someone. So I like taking one or two of these guys. All it takes, because it's his best ball, is for them to pop off once in 1 week, and the other one is the other week. And then you're feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I love starting off a draft with Garrett Wilson and Josh Allen. Like the ADPs are there so that it's a viable strategy. And then some players I actually like later on in the draft. I enjoy matching any side of this with Mike Williams. I think that, yeah, he's getting older. Yeah, he deals with injuries a lot. But where he's going off the board in the 10th round. At that point, you are getting to take advantage of the upside of his potential without it having to come at a significant cost. He could pop off for 20 points any given week, and at that ADP value, it's great. So I love having him in a kind of a Garrett Wilson, Josh Allen, Mike Williams stack. Another guy I love stacking, I still love stacking Dawson Knox with Josh Allen. I think it's a great strategy. He is free. He's a free tight end, and he has shown that he's a consistent end zone, red zone target for Josh Allen. I think he's still going to be a part of this offense. He's still going to be on the field regardless of how Dalton Kincaid performs. So I like taking him at his value. But Matt, for you, who is the best value at their current ADP?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Tyler Conklin, the tight end for the Jets, coming off the board as tight end 20. He's very consistent in terms of number of targets. He gets a whole bunch of targets. Again, Rodgers has to throw it to people other than, Garrett Wilson and Mike Williams. So I think Breece Hall and this offense is going to be moving the ball way better than they did last year, actually have red zone opportunities. And then who benefits most from that? I think it's Tyler Conklin. So I've been really targeting him as my tight end 3. And kind of like a backdoor stack sometime with Rodgers, who's a bit essentially free as well. And yeah, I think where he's being drafted, every time I get him, it's like, oh, this feels right.
Yeah, you alluded to him. I love the value on Aaron Rodgers this year. I think it's a great time to be drafting him. You're taking him in the 14th round at QB 21. That's pretty solid value, and I think there's a clear pathway for him to beat that ADP. He had a string for many years of never finishing outside of the top 12 in fantasy football. He could get back to that really easily. Then the first year he was outside the top 12 in a season where he was healthy was his last season in Green Bay. So maybe that showed the cliff, but maybe he bounces back. You never know. His weapons are going to be better this year. He's got some guys that are trusted around him. So I like, if I'm targeting this matchup, having Aaron Rodgers as probably my second or third quarterback. So I think the value on him could be really good. However, on the flip side, what is the biggest trap in this matchup?
This one it's really tough because I feel like everyone's being drafted around where I would expect them to be drafted. I guess, and this pains me to say because I really like him, James Cook at RB13. I have a lot of James Cook stuff because I think he can be good, but we don't know what this offense looks like right now. Josh Allen clearly still is he loves running the ball near the end zone, right? Putting his body out there to score. So I think Cook's, what ceiling is capped sort of by how Josh Allen works around the end zone. So RB13, yeah, there are other people that maybe have more solid roles and, might be more utilized on the goal line. So don't go crazy with the James Cook stocks.
Yeah, I like that one. I have been waiting to throw this stat out here for this one. My favorite trap player, or my player that I think is a trap in this matchup, is Dalton Kincaid. He's going off the board at tight end 5. He's going ahead of Kyle Pitts by almost a full round. He only scored 3 more fantasy points in half PPR leagues than Kyle Pitts last season. Than Kyle
Wow.
Pitts, who was hated by everyone last year because of Arthur Smith, and yet Dalton Kincaid was just barely better than him. I don't like that, especially when you can get George Kittle and Evan Ingram a round to 2 rounds later than Dalton Kincaid. I'm not in on drafting Kincaid at his current price. I may do it once or twice because again, there's nobody that I'm never going to draft because I want to have a portfolio approach. But I can't draft him that often in these lineups. So with that in mind, what is your biggest question mark about these teams?
Yeah, the Buffalo defense for me, there's been a lot of turnover there. They've invested in their defensive line, which is nice, but I just don't know what that defense looks like. Are they going to be the same good defense we expect them to be, or do they take a step back? Like, we know the Jets have a super rock star defense. That's going to be tough. We fully expect Josh Allen to be able to dissect it. So I feel pretty I'm not worried about the Bills in this matchup, even though the Jets have a really good defense. But yeah, what does that Bills defense look like?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to the other side of the ball for the same team. I'm curious just who is going to be that number one pass catcher in Buffalo. People think it's going to be Dalton Kincaid. Some folks want it to be Keon Coleman. I think it could be Keon Coleman, but you still have guys like Curtis Samuel, Khalil Shakir. Are any of them going to be a number one? Is it just going to be like on any given week, like what we've seen with Kansas City and Buffalo to some extent? It's going to be just one guy pops off, one guy's the feature receiver. I think that's the most likely outcome, but who does break out? Does anyone break out? I don't know. We'll have to see. If you're targeting Buffalo and the New York Jets, you need to know who they're playing in weeks 15 and 16 so you can correlate and stack those weeks as well. For the Jets, they are playing the Jacksonville Jaguars in week 15. Another could be a slogfest of a matchup. They also play the Los Angeles Rams on week 16, which could be an interesting one. Buffalo, they play the Detroit Lions in week 15. So I actually really love their week 15 matchup. And so Buffalo is a nice player to have, a team to have in your lineup if you are targeting that week 17 matchup between Detroit and San Francisco. However, Buffalo also plays the New England Patriots in week 16, and we have seen some slogfest of games between these two teams, especially with how strong the Patriots defense has been. So I don't love all of Buffalo's playoff schedule, but they have some good matchups there with Detroit. But that is going to be all for this episode. Don't forget, before you go, to hit like and hit subscribe, turn on those notifications. Be on the lookout for our next episode where we are now in the top half of our Week 17 matchups. We'll be looking at our 8th favorite Week 17 matchup. And for Matt Record, I'm Austin Amendolia. This has been Summer School. And remember, defense wins championships, offense wins fantasy football, and best ball wins money. See you next time.